I need more energy, number one. Number two, you say Chris Canty and you say Kevin, I get that part. And then you say, but hold on now. My boy Stephen A., I mean, you got to show some enthusiasm, all right?
You know why?
When it comes to me.
You weren't ready. I didn't want to call you out, but you weren't ready, Stephen. So I was looking at you, making sure my guy looks good. But since you want to take it there, I got some rules for everyone, including Stephen A. I'm the host today, which means I get to set the agenda. Number one, you shall refer to me as Kimberley A. or the lovely Miss Kimberly. Number two, never call me Kim or you will lose your turn, Stephen. And also for Stephen A., no eye rolls or rude reactions. But Canty, you're not alone. No filibustering to run out the clock. And for Kevin, no dancing. Please, no dancing, Kevin.
Kevin Daniels?
No problems there.
Nobody wants to see that.
No, you don't want to see it, Stephen A. You don't want to see it, man.
I really don't. I really don't. All right, let's go.
All right. Now, let's turn to the NFL, guys, on a serious note, where news broke yesterday that Terry McLaurin has requested a trade from the Commanders. The star wideout has publicly voiced his frustration over failing to get an extension ahead of training camp and has been a hold-in in hopes of getting a new deal done. But as we've seen, things have escalated in Washington. McLaurin and the Commanders are far apart in negotiations, according to our own Adam Schefter. And McLaurin is entering the final year of his deal with an average annual value of just over $23 million. But according to Schefter, he is seeking a deal similar to DK Metcalf's $33 million a season. Stephen A., what do you think of McLaurin's trade request?
I'm not sure, Kimberly and fellas, how wise it is for him to take this position at this particular moment in time. The brother is a guy that registers 1,000-yard seasons with regularity. He can ball. He is a valuable asset to their franchise. My sources tell me right now they're at about $27 million with him. To me, if they came, I think they should at least come up to 30. There's no question about that. But if they come up to 30 to 31 million, I'm not sure there's somebody else out there that's giving Terry McLaurin that kind of paper. And so when you ask for a trade, I definitely understand where he's coming from because he's a guy that's produced. He's a leader in the locker room. He's obviously a primary target for Jayden Daniels. We get that part. And then they talked about, when you read the reports and they talk about the times that, Daniel Snyder was there and you're making the transition from Daniel Snyder to Josh Harris and how leadership in the locker room was so pivotal and he provided that. I can get where that frustration comes from, where the organization comes to you, they love you. You see Coach Quinn just the other day talking about what a man he is, what a great professional he is, et cetera, et cetera. You live up to all of these things and you go out and produce, and then your value, you're not rewarded with recognition of the value you deserve. The flip side to it, however, is that this is business. Leverage is everything. And if you don't have somebody out there that can get you that kind of paper, then I'm not sure how wise it was for him to demand a trade. Maybe that might be posturing. We don't know. I don't blame him for it. I just don't know how successful it's going to be, fellas. I really don't.
Chris, what do you think about what Stephen A. is saying?
Lovely Kimberly A. Stephen A., you know this.
Good job.
When it comes to business, sometimes every contract that you do ain't going to be a deal. And that's what the Washington Commanders have to realize when it comes to Terry McLaurin. Because of how important he is to the evolution, the growth of Jayden Daniels going into year two, his importance to the league is irrelevant relative to his importance to the Washington Commanders and what they want to accomplish this year. They got the reigning defending Super Bowl champs in the Philadelphia Eagles in their own division. So if they have any fancies of trying to contend for a division title to host a home playoff game, they're going to have Terry McLaurin in the building. I appreciate and applaud the Deebo Samuel move, but Deebo Samuel at this stage in his career is not a number one receiver. Terry McLaurin is. So you can miss me with the concerns about his age, going into his age 30 season. All of that stuff doesn't matter. All I know is Terry McLaurin, since he's coming to the league in 2019, has produced. And I heard Joe Burrow say earlier this week, production is value in this league. Well, Terry McLaurin is 9th in receiving yards since he's been in this league. He led the NFL in tight window catches last year. Only Jamar Chase had more touchdown catches than Terry McLaurin last year. Terry McLaurin called game on the final play in 2 ball games last year, in Cincinnati and in Dallas. You have tangible evidence that this guy can win you football games. I don't know why Adam Peters in the front office of the Washington Commanders is taking this tack for a guy that embodies everything you want your program to be. He is a culture guy. He has done nothing but produce despite having over a half dozen quarterbacks throwing him to the football. I don't know if you know this, playing wide receiver, kind of important who's throwing you the ball. So I'm just going to put this out there. There's a tad bit of hubris when it comes to the approach of the Commanders front office and how they're handling Terry McLaurin.
Remind you about the filibustering rule that we have today on the show. Kevin, I want to get to you. I want to know if you are pro-team or pro-Terry on this.
I'm pro this getting done. First of all, there is nothing more worthless in sports than an NFL star requesting a trade, okay? The teams say, thanks for the suggestion, we're going to do what we want to do. That's just how the NFL is set up with the franchise tag and all of the control that they have contractually. For me, this has to get done because if Terry McLaurin did not play for the Commanders, the best place for him to play, to be traded to, would be the Commanders, right? So that's what you need to understand about this situation. Canty already mentioned best tight window receiver in football, top 5 in go balls last year, which is what Jayden Daniels needs to keep doing. Keeps needing to push the ball down the field in year 2. He's one of the best college deep ball throwers in history. He didn't show that as much as he could at the NFL level. So this has to get done. I understand that Commanders ownership is saying we want to be analytically driven. We don't want to sign a guy for over $30 million who's over 30. First of all, Commanders ownership, I've seen the Sixers roster. You're not that smart, okay? But going forward here, I'm just looking at a situation that has to get resolved. There has never been, maybe in the last 20, 30 years, a better time to be a Commanders fan than right now. There are people in that city who are embarrassed to be a fan for 2 decades, and now they're not only coming out of the woodwork, they have Super Bowl aspirations. This has to get done. This has to be a situation where everybody says, as Stephen A. alluded to, 30 million, let's come together, let's go, let's try to win a Super Bowl.
Stephen A., what else?
Well, first
what
of
else
all, none of y'all,
mind?
hold on. First of all, none of y'all are wrong. And CC, I appreciate how direct you are, but I want to make sure that the audience knows we're all clear. All of us are in support of McLaurin getting a new deal. All of us believe he deserves his bag. All of us recognize his level of production warrants it, and culture and character and these other elements that NFL teams swear matter so much. He fills the bill. The man covers all bases. Y'all are absolutely right about that. I'm only bringing up the point, how plausible is it for him to go elsewhere? He turns 30 on September 15th, if I remember correctly. The contract kicks in on his 31st birthday when he turns 31. And they talk about receivers and how, once you climb up there in age, they're looking at a contract that's going to take him into his mid-30s, and they're wondering about the level of production and what it's going to be at that time. We've lamented that with running backs on a constant basis. Kevin, you weren't here when I was doing this, but on many occasions, I've lamented the fact that running backs had their birth certificate held against them. They would go out and produce, and it didn't matter. DeMarco Murray from years ago really stood out in my mind when you run him into the ground by giving him 392 carries in the season, and then you cast him out with the bathwater, And I understand you might have run him down or whatever, but I'm sitting there looking at running backs and saying maybe you should monitor how much of a workload they're going to throw on your shoulders when it's exactly what they're going to use to hold against you when it comes to giving you the bag. We don't have to say the same in terms of an identical situation with running backs, but nevertheless, their birth certificate gets held against them to some degree as well. And I think that's what's happening here with Terry McLaurin, which begs the question. See, are you going to be able to get what you want elsewhere? Is he going to be a DK Metcalf that can go somewhere else and get $33 million a year? I don't know the answer to that question. Both of you probably have a better idea of it than me, but that's my concern. Not that he doesn't deserve it. His production says he deserves it, and the Washington Commanders, with all that they have done to change the culture, should realize that and pay this brother. I'm just saying it is business, and we're talking leverage, and if you don't have anybody else that's going to give you that bag, then is it wise for you to be asking for a trade at this particular moment in time? I don't blame him because Jayden Daniels is there, and that's his brother that got his back, and that's his star quarterback, but it is a concern.
So, Chris, one thing Steven mentioned was Jayden Daniels. You talk a lot on Unsportsmanlike about Joe Burrow and how he was vocal about how the team should get T. Higgins' deal done and Jamar. In this case, do you think Jayden Daniels should be more vocal in support of getting McLaurin his bag?
No. Jayden Daniels has enough to worry about. He's going into year 2. And as a former player, I spent a lot of time in year 2 realizing what I didn't know going into year 1. And so there's an evolution, there's a learning curve that's still associated with trying to play the quarterback position at a high level at this stage in Jayden Daniels' career. So I don't think he needs to be taking on the responsibilities of trying to play GM and trying to do Adam Peters' job, right? After teams have an opportunity to put what he's doing in Cliff Kingsbury's offense under a microscope, I think that there is going to be a higher degree of difficulty to replicate what we saw from him last year. So no, Jayden Daniels doesn't need to get involved. But to Stephen A's point about whether or not there's somebody out there that's going to give Terry McLaurin his money, fact is we don't know that. But what I will say is this. If you're the Washington Commanders, if there was ever a time to quote unquote overpay for a player, it would be this player in this circumstance. You have the most valuable commodity in the National Football League, which is a quarterback that is on a rookie contract. And not just any quarterback, a guy from a talent standpoint is top 5 in this league. I'm not quite sure why you wouldn't push all your chips to the middle of the table. Terry McLaurin aside, there are only 2 Washington Commanders that have a cap hit over $20 million this season. Just 2. That's Deron Payne and Laramie Tunsil. So if there was ever a time to go for it, to go all in, this is the time.
Well, hold on. If that's the case, see, then even though he's entering his 2nd year, you shouldn't have a problem with the quarterback speaking up for him. Because again, I'm the face of the franchise. I'm the star. This is what we've built. We were just in the NFC Championship game. I'm a young brother growing, and this is a vet that helped me immensely. And he's produced, and he hasn't missed a game in 4 years. He's played all 17 games over the last 4 years. He hasn't missed a game. This is a brother I can rely upon, I can trust, not just to produce on the field, but to help take a lot of pressure off of me in the locker room. I'll give y'all this analogy. He's the greatest shooter God has ever created. Steph Curry is a 4-time champion, all right, 2-time league MVP. He wouldn't hesitate to tell you how much he needs Draymond Green. Steve Kerr wouldn't hesitate to tell you how much he needs Draymond Green and others. Why? Because Draymond takes so much of the other pressure off of Steph Curry that Steph Curry just gets to go out there and play. That's what I'm talking about with McLaurin. You got a guy that you need to go out there and play and don't need to be distracted. And you got a cat in that locker room that plays the wide receiver spot that's a high-end producer that takes all of that additional pressure off of him, which is why Jayden Daniels might be wise to whisper in the organization's ear and say, yo, y'all, we need to take care of this.
All right, Steven, I need you to pass the ball to Kevin Clark. I've been waiting to hear what Kevin has to say. What do you got?
All right, so when you're a young franchise quarterback, you're the CEO of everything. You might be the governor of the state you're in, like everything. Everybody looks towards you. You become the spokesman for the city, let alone the franchise. And if I'm Jayden Daniels, I'm unleashing my inner Joe Burrow. Just what Joe Burrow did with his wide receivers a couple of months ago. He basically said, hey, look at the Eagles. They keep everybody. Why can't we do that? He should probably start doing it even a little more than he has been with Trey Hendrickson and accelerate that a little bit. But I just think I talked to Jayden Daniels on Monday of this week, and we talked about what the next step is for him. And the answer is, as I said earlier, the deep ball. And I said, how does that happen? He said reps, time on task. At LSU, he had 2 incredible wide receivers, Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. And he said they had so much practice time together that they knew when it was man coverage on the outside, those guys were going to win. He knew where to throw it up to, and then he was able to get a 50 or 60-yard chunk play. You have to get Terry into camp and start that process with Deebo Samuel so you start to know what they have down the field. Canty said it earlier about the rookie contracts. That's exactly right. They have an unbelievable opportunity, one of the best windows any team has ever had when you look at Jayden Daniels' production last year with the contract and with that front office. They went out and they got, I said, Jayden, who are the best newcomers so far? He said Laramie Tunsil, who obviously is going to play tackle, and Von Miller, who's going to be their closer in pass rush. They're not going to do what the Texans did last year, which is have C.J. Stroud, have him ball out, and then not address the offensive line. This is a huge, huge leap forward. It's not going to be a sophomore slump. They need to get Terry in now, and Jayden Daniels needs to speak up.